My name is Blake and I have a story to tell.
We are the Nilsons. My name is Angie and this is Eric. We got married pretty young and it was love at first sight. We are blessed with 5 amazing, wild, crazy boys. We are sharing our story not because we think it's so important, but because we know how important your story is. You have the power to create true healing in your own life and live a healthy, abundant life. We're gonna take you guys back to the very beginning. Blake was born in 2013 and he was absolutely adorable. I knew that something wasn't quite right, but I could never put a finger on it. Blake's body was giving me clues all along the way. I just didn't know what they meant yet.
When Blake was 2 years old, our lives changed forever. One Sunday afternoon, me and Angie noticed that he wasn't feeling very well, and his eyelids were swollen, and by that evening, he wouldn't play with his brothers, he wasn't doing anything, he was just lethargic and just sitting there, and you could tell he didn't feel good. The next day we realized he still hadn't gone pee, he wouldn't eat, wouldn't drink. Called the doctors and they kind of just said, there's a bug going around, and just kind of let it play its course.
Can you try to walk? Come here. Come here. You can't walk.
He could not, it just broke my heart because he had no strength. And that's when I knew something was really wrong. And I called Eric and I said, Eric, I'm taking him to the hospital. They thought that he probably had cancer, but they said, go home, see if you can get him some rest, and we'll call you later today with all the test results and tell you what's going on.
They never called though.
So we spent that whole night just worried sick. I took him back in. The doctor still hadn't even looked at the result. That's when they admitted us into the hospital. And at this point, he was declining so fast. He went from this skinny little boy to his face was huge. We were just sitting there in tears. This nurse that we hadn't seen yet, and we didn't see him again, ever. I swear he was like an angel, but he walked in very confidently and he said, I think something's wrong and we're gonna figure out what it is. The pediatrician had called us and told us that Blake's kidneys were in complete failure and he needed to be flighted up to primary children's. They told Eric that his potassium level in his blood was at 9, and when it gets to 10, your heart stops. They got there, and this was honestly the most dramatic part of the whole thing is he was laying on the bed. Another doctor came in, hooked up dialysis, and it wouldn't work. And we both knew that we were running out of time. We didn't have time for this. He unstitched him, and at this point I could see through his neck, and it was and he was awake and confused and looking at me like, Mom, help me, what are these people doing to me? And that's when I let go. I let go of his hands because I couldn't, I couldn't sit there and watch him be in pain anymore, so I left. And I felt guilty for so long. I carried that with me, that guilt that I wasn't strong enough to stay there when he needed me. And I went out in the hall and I rocked and I cried, and I thought that that was the last time that I would see him.
It actually took him 3 times to get the tubes set where they needed to do the dialysis.
He couldn't even make it 3 hours without needing dialysis. And also he had to have a blood transfusion. He had so much fluid in his body that he had to have his lungs drained. He was a mess. He was a mess. So it came to a point that the doctors told us that they needed Blake's room in the hospital and they were going to release us. They were gonna take his port out and see how he did. and we didn't feel ready at all. We were leaving the hospital with a million questions. The only thing that we knew was he had chronic kidney disease caused by autoimmunity. And at that point we were both like, what even does that mean? His immune complex was turned on and there was no way of turning it off. There was no cure. This was a very rare disease that he would have it for the rest of his life. They gave us a ton of prescriptions and steroids. Like, his little body was taking so many steroids every single day. And they said that with their other patients that they know that the medication only lasts for a little bit of time and then it doesn't work anymore. So basically there was no cure, not a lot of hope, and they told us to go home and watch for his body to fail him again. And I know that the doctors really did save Blake's life during that time. The doctors were more interested in what kind of prescriptions and combinations that they were giving Blake instead of actually helping him find true health. And those answers just weren't good enough for me. The joy that we had when we saw that Blake peed for the first time in weeks. I gotta start.
So glorious.
It was so glorious. It was black. It really was black, but we were excited. I would stay up super late at night and read books and scour the internet for any information or inkling of hope that somebody else was able to heal their body through food and their environment. But I think we both knew that there was so much that we couldn't control, so we decided to just focus on what we could. What happened next and the path that we went down, I feel like was led completely by God. We decided to clean out our entire home of all the toxins. I think Eric thought I was crazy when I started just chucking stuff. I threw probably most of our food away. I threw everything away, all the steroid creams that I would give him, everything. I just threw it all away, and I stripped our home down to like nothing. And
You left the shelf.
we used holistic doctors and methods to find specifically what foods supported Blake. Do you know what is so cool? Within 7 weeks, he was speaking full sentences.
Daddy?
What's that, strawberry? What else are you getting out of there? Can you say blueberries?
As you look at his health and everything and the improvements, but I think with him communicating and being able to talk and everything, that was like the biggest eye-opener. He grunted everything.
Yeah, he did. We eliminated soy, dairy, eggs, all gluten, any preservatives, artificial flavoring. So basically, if it wasn't real food, we weren't going to eat it. We planted a garden for the first time, and it was huge. This experience opened my eyes to a whole other world of people who are fighting invisible illnesses, and they're so alone. Like, they feel so alone in this fight. When I was just learning how to cook healthy meals and food for my family, it was really hard for me. Like, I struggled, and I know what it feels like. I remember my alarm would go off in the morning, and I would just close and squint my eyes as tight as I could, and I'm like, no, I have 5 hungry boys and I have no idea what to feed them. What I would say to that is just make it simple. My meals were so simple and easy. So when Blake started doing better and feeling better, that's when I completely crashed emotionally, and I think it's because I allowed myself to feel for the first time and trying to process all of it. And I felt guilt and shame around the fact that I had a child with me and I still got to enjoy him, whereas there's a lot of parents who had lost children. To the person hurting, that you're not crazy, that you are so worthy. You are worthy to take time and make changes for yourself, to have a joyful life. And also to the caregiver who is taking care of people that are sick, that your work does not go unnoticed. It's important to know that you can still be grateful for the life that you have, but then also allow yourself to feel your emotions and be able to work through them and then decide what you want to carry forth with you. There were times that got really dark. There was a period of time that I actually begged to die, that all of it was just too much for me to handle. When I would get in the car with my kids, I would seriously beg that I got in a car accident and that my kids lived, but that I didn't. But looking back, I just knew I have so much compassion for that person and the place that I was in, because I felt no way out. But how I came out of that was love. Love for my children and knowing that they needed me, but then also empathy and love for myself. I had to learn to love myself again. In my darkest hour, God asked me to share Blake's story. And I remember saying like, what? Me? Are you kidding me? Like, I am a hot mess. I can barely take care of myself and my kids. And he said, no, you need to share.
I think that the interesting part is how many people are experiencing similar things that you have no idea. I think it was a matter of faith and putting it in someone else's hands and trusting that everything was okay.
There's a few truths that I learned from this experience, and I learned that it matters deeply. What you expose your kids to or your bodies, it matters what you feed your body, your environment matters. I learned that our bodies are incredible machines and that you're worth it, that we are all connected and we can help each other through anything. I've discovered passions of mine that I want to bring forth throughout this world, and I have a purpose and I want to help the children, and I will do that through their mothers. That really is what God told me though. I learned that every single one of us is worth it. And when life is hard or sometimes you just feel completely crushed, that you can keep rising, and little by little through the choices that you make, that you can rise and spread the light